Hey there. In this video, we'll be taking a close look at the table widget, and we're going to consider configurations and options available on the table widget, such as table data, actions, columns, and styles. To get started, let us head over to the widgets section, and we are going to drag over a table to the playground. And immediately we are presented with a pane for us to configure the options of the table widget. The first option we can configure is the table data, and this is the data that is shown on the widget itself. Here we can go ahead to write some hard-coded data if we want, or we have an option to write some JavaScript to pull in data from a query or API that we already have configured. And to make things much easier, we have a lightning icon here that we can click on and immediately pull in data we have configured from an API or a query. From another widget, we can write some JavaScript or HTML to be displayed on the table widget. The next property we have on the table widget to configure are the columns itself. We can go ahead to give granular configuration to each column on the table widget, and I'd like to show you that briefly. So clicking on the ID column, we can configure the computed value for the ID column. So we can do some transformation or some formatting to make data be presented in a format we want. For example, I can go and add a £sign here, and you can see all items in the ID column have that £sign. Other options we have on the column level is to configure the style of each item on the column level. So we can configure the alignment, the text size, the font style, the vertical alignment, the text color, or the cell background of each individual item on the column we have selected. And one thing of note is that we can make these styles to be applied conditionally by clicking on the JS button here and writing some JavaScript logic that will determine when each style is applied. Going back to the table widget, we can also adjust or customize the order in which the columns are shown. We can do that by dragging the column to a desired position, and we see that updated on the widget right here on the left hand side. And we also have the ability to add a new custom column. Custom columns can be computed from the values of other columns, or they can be used to perform one-off actions. For example, we can set this custom column to be a button that performs an action whenever it is clicked. So going back to the table configuration, we also have the ability to set a default search text, and this will be the search text that will be shown on the search component in the table widget. We can also set a default selected row that will be highlighted whenever this table widget is re-rendered. We can configure server-side pagination, and this is really useful if your table is going to be displaying a large data, but you only want a small chunk to be shown at each point in time. So server-side pagination is going to help with that. We can also configure the visibility of our table widget. We can write some JavaScript also to make that happen conditionally. And we can enable multi-row selection by clicking on the button we have over here. Other configuration options we have on the table widget are actions. We can configure actions to be run whenever any of these events happen on the table widget. For example, we can configure an action to be run when the row is selected, when page is changed, when the size of the page is changed, or when the search text we have on the search component is changed. We can choose to call an API, execute a DB query, navigate to a new page, show a message, open a modal, close a modal, store a value to local storage, download an item, or copy something to the clipboard. And for each of these actions, we can dig in and write some custom JavaScript to do whatever logic we want to accomplish. And the same goes for all the actions we have on the table widget. Lastly, we can configure the styles of the widget itself by changing the cell backgrounds, changing the text color, setting a text size, changing the font style, and setting some alignment, either vertical or horizontal alignment. So these are the configuration options that we are presented with on the table widget, and I'm sure that you are going to make the most of them.